Djibouti selling to Kenya, or traders from Kenya selling to Djibouti, have to look for US dollars. How is US dollars part of the trade between Djibouti and Kenya? Why? And we are saying that today, Afri-Exim Bank have given us a mechanism where traders in our continent can trade in their goods and services, and the Africa Exim Bank will settle payments in local currency. That is why Kenya champions the Pan-African payment and settlement system that is done by our own institution, the Afri-Exim Bank. Why, members? Why is it necessary for us to buy things from Djibouti and pay in dollars? Why? There is no reason. And we are not against the US dollar. We just want to trade much more freely. Let us pay in US dollars what we are buying from the US. But what we are buying from Djibouti, let's use local currency.
Now, guys, let's get what's going on in Kenya. Kenya is having some economic protests right now, and we're going to go over why that is. It's very fascinating what's going on over there, especially in light of that. I don't know how many of you may remember, we did a report on Kenya, no more, it hasn't even been a month, where the president of Kenya was saying that he really came out hard questioning why Kenya had to use the dollar in trade with other African countries, specifically Djibouti. All right. And he got a lot of African countries in the vicinity of Kenya to agree. Well, why are we doing this? Okay. Here's the thing. At the time when I did the video, and you can go back and you can check it out for yourself, I made mention of the fact that those who question the supremacy of the US dollar tend to kind of end up in a bad way. All right. Now let's take Muammar Gaddafi, the former ruler of Libya. He questioned dollar hegemony by saying, I think we should start a Pan-African Union and use a gold-backed currency, gold and or oil-backed currency to rival the dollar. Okay. Why are we doing these trades in dollars? The agreement is between Saudi Arabia and the United States. The United States gives Saudi Arabia military protection. Saudi Arabia denominates oil sales in dollars. But Libya is saying, hell, we produce oil. There are other oil producing nations that don't have that arrangement with the US. So why don't we, create our own currency? It was not long after that the seeds of dissent started to be sowed within Libya. And Muammar Gaddafi, oh man, he ended up in a bad way. I don't know if you all remember what happened to him, but it wasn't pretty, okay? And I would not have wanted to live under his rule. I'm not saying he was a nice guy. I'm not saying that he didn't do things that, were anti-freedom. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is, damn, when you look at how he was chased through the streets and what they did to him when they caught up with him, go read the account of that. It's pretty brutal, okay? There's a scene in the movie Coming to America with Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall where they go to rent the apartment in Queens. And the guy opens the door to the apartment, and it's like a crime scene. The place is filthy. There are rats, and there's a chalk outline of a guy who was blind. They even chalk outlined the cane and the dog, his seeing eye dog. Okay, And the guy looks at the landlord looks at the crime scene and he just says, "It's a shame what they did to that damn dog." And kind of the same way I felt when I read the account of what happened to Gaddafi. Another one was Saddam Hussein. Now remember, you go back, Saddam Hussein been allied with the United States during Iraq's war against Iran. You want to talk about weapons of mass destruction? Think Mira says they pulled Gaddafi out of a storm drain. Yeah, he was hiding. He was hiding like a rat. You ever play hide and seek and you know they're close? You know that little feeling you get? Magnify that by 1,000. Anyway, Saddam Hussein was allied with the United States when Iraq was fighting against Iran. This was back in the 70s, 80s. I'd have to check. But you want to talk about the weapons of mass destruction. Guess who gave Iraq weapons of mass destruction? It was the United States of America back when they were fighting against Iran. So, fine. Use them in a proxy war to, go against Iran. But then something very important happened. When Saddam invaded Kuwait, then the United States was like, oh, wait a minute, that Saudi Arabia region that he invaded, it invoked that whole thing where we were obligated to come to the aid of Saudi Arabia because they were denominating oil sales in dollars. So we did. And Whitney Houston sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl, greatest rendition ever. And W. Bush took us to war in Iraq, lasted, I think they said 100 hours, and weakened Saddam. That was like a slap on the wrist. They decided not to go into Baghdad. Just, slap on the wrist. You've been a bad boy, Saddam. We didn't sanction this. And, these guys are our friends. You can't do that. But then the rest is history. 9/11 happened. And I've got this book here on my shelf. It's somewhere in here, the 9/11 report. And in this book, they make the case. It's a weak case, but they make the case for, we went into Iraq because of Abu Nidal. Abu Nidal was a terrorist. Saddam Hussein was sheltering Abu Nidal, but do you declare total war, shock and awe on a country because of one man? Well, that's what they did. And hung him. Okay, that was the end result for him. But Saddam had talked about, creating a different type of currency, all right, that would rival the United States dollar. So that's what happens. Don't go out there trying to do that because you won't end up, safe and sound. And that is another reason why there's such a war on cryptocurrency, because it rivals the dollar. It threatens the dollar. And we're in a state of existence right now in the United States where a lot of countries to hell with the dollar. We can't depose them all, right? But maybe we can start trouble in Kenya because they've gone from the video we did where he was questioning the dollar to massive unrest based on economics. All right. The Internationalist says every country has their own agenda. Absolutely. It's human mentality. Money and freedom rules. Agreed. And power. A lot of people want power. I just want to be left alone. So we've got these protests in Kenya. Kenyans are preparing for tough times after lawmakers approve tax increases that are even unpopular with supporters of the president, who once vowed to reduce the cost of living. All right, so why are we getting tax increases? One of the taxes that they are increasing is the fuel tax. They're actually doubling that. And that is coupled with some climate protection projections they have to meet. So Kenya, already an impoverished country in many respects, is now going to see a fuel price increase in the form of a doubling of the fuel tax. That fuel tax reverberates through every other aspect of the economy. Anything that needs to be brought in by plane, train, boat, automobile, okay, truck, is going to be subject to that fuel tax. So let's just take dates. I eat dates. You ship in dates on a boat that then terminates and needs to drive across to get to Kenya. Fuel is being used, okay, for that, to the extent that any part of that supply chain is exposed to that increase in Kenya's fuel tax, you're going to see that passed on. The doubling of the tax on petroleum products from 8% to 16% is expected to have a ripple effect on East Africa's economic hub, with the prices of goods and services expected to increase. So designed to decrease travel, all right? Because if the people can't afford to put gas in the car, they can't go anywhere, right? The administration of President William Ruto, who was elected last year, has only made things harder, one supporter said. And look, I can't show you these protests that are going on out there, but it's pretty violent, okay? There was a thumbnail I put on the announcement for this live stream. If you saw that, I was surprised YouTube let me get away with that. But that's kind of the flavor of it. Ruto, this is a protester saying, he said he was going to make life easier for us hustlers. We are now unable to afford food. Prices are higher than they were before the election, said hairdresser Evelyn Adhimabo. People earning above 500,000 shillings, which is equivalent to $3,500, now will pay 32.5% in taxes, and those making above 800,000 shillings will pay 35%, combined with a new housing tax of 1.5% and a medical insurance tax of 2.5%. The new burden will see some Kenyans part with about 40% of their income. All right, so a medical insurance tax. You would think that if someone had, and I'm supposing here that this is private medical insurance, you would think if someone had that, you wouldn't tax them, because the government would say, okay, they're paying for that, so that means we don't have to, right? Looks like Kenya is going to be taxing everything. A housing tax, okay, the income tax. Teresa Kathina, a civil servant for 26 years, said it will be the highest employees have ever paid in taxes. Well, they're calculating it at 40%. So that means 60% time you're working for yourself, 40% you're working for the government. And look, that's not too different from a lot of Americans. If you calculate all of the taxes you're paying and you add that up, you might be somewhere in the vicinity of 40%, or don't take the time to do that. So it doesn't give them the impetus to lower their taxation, okay? Because they don't feel as though it's having an impact until they calculate it. This feels cruel because of the inflation rate. They're dealing with higher taxes and inflation as well. Small businesses are also being hit with a tax on their total sales increasing from 1% to 3%. Business people said this will kill the already struggling small enterprises that have been reporting losses since the pandemic. They're essentially telling us to shut down because we will not take loans to pay taxes. Now, they've gone from, being vocal about their dislike for this, tax increase. Who likes a tax increase? But they're out in the street, all right? They're actually out in the street protesting this, burning stuff, okay? It's getting to the point where there's so much dissent fomenting against the president that, look, guys, so it doesn't take much. Remember the Arab Spring? Doesn't take much to depose a leader. Could we be seeing that in Kenya? And if we are seeing that, you have to ask yourself, is that a response to American intelligence agencies? Because come on, guys, the American intelligence agencies, this is their stock and trade. Somebody goes off the reservation, some country goes off reservation and starts to make noises about doing something that'll hurt the interests of the United States of America. Okay, we go in and we work with folk, and before you know it, because there's always an opposition in every one of these countries, right? We work with the opposition leaders, and before you know it, and we got people in the streets protesting. We've got a ruler that may be getting a little trepidatious, and then maybe you have someone come in, unlike President Ruto, who says, you know, I understand perfectly why we have to trade in dollars, and upholds that U.S.-centric view of economics. Okay, it's been done time and time again. It's nothing new. All right, so we got the tax on small businesses. We've got taxes on, you know, housing, healthcare. We'll look at months and see what has happened, or sooner if, you know, news occurs. But here's the thing. This sort of thing is happening in your country, in your state, in your county. Again, you probably don't know it because you're in a situation different from these Kenyans where you make more money, okay? Americans tend to be lulled into a false sense of security. Westerners in general tend to be lulled into a false sense of security because we have creature comforts, okay? At the end of the day, when I was a firefighter and we wanted to get lunch, we would always call that the decision of where to go get lunch. We'd always call that a first world problem because Trent wanted to go to Pizza Hut. Kenny, he wanted to go over to the Chinese food joint. And Tim, he wanted to go to get something from the Mexican. We would sit there, okay, which is done in many workplaces throughout the world, throughout the Western world, all day long, every day, and take 20 minutes deciding what you want to eat. All right. So because we have these types of this type of largesse, it's easy to miss what our countries and what our state, local, and, you know, federal governments are doing that are against our economic interest. So I never tire of trying to make people aware of the fact that that debt that we have, $32 trillion and rising, not coming down. It'll be 50 trillion by mid 2030s. We're responsible for that debt. Pay the taxes now. Create something that's going to allow you to have tax-free income in the future when taxes go up. Now you can check out our website, M as in money, mcenow.com. We talk about some of those products. If you have questions, drop us a line at info@mcenow.com. Be happy to answer and show you how you can legally sidestep future taxation, which is bound to be higher. So you don't have to be like the Kenyans and start burning tires in the street. Okay.